The main strategy I would use in, say, the area of writing would be that I would do a writer's workshop. And this would be done about 3 or 4 times a week. Each child has a writing folder, which is broken up into sections. So they would have their planning section, their draft section, then a section for any lessons that we do. And again, that's broken up into craft lessons and skills lessons, so that they know the difference between the craft lessons would be on, using great metaphors or using figurative language in their writing. And then the skills lessons would be where to use your commas and things like that. So kind of grammar versus the content of your writing. And then at the back of the folder, they would have their published pieces. And what we would do is, last year with my 5th class, with the current 6th class now, we focused a lot mainly on fiction. And they were basically told they could write about anything they wanted to. And they would brainstorm ideas, and we talked about how you would get ideas and pulling it from your real life or interests you have. And then they would go and plan a piece and write it. And they were told they'd have to write on every second line so that we could come back and make it easier for editing. And after they wrote, say, 4 or 5 pieces, I'd say to them, now pick a piece that you want to publish. And they would pick a piece, and I would have an editing conference with them. So they would be given, before they have the editing conference with me, we'd come up with an editing list, a checklist, and they would check what they could themselves. And then I would have a one-on-one editing conference with them where we would finish off the rest of it, and then they would go publish their piece. I found that from the beginning year to the end of year, there was a huge improvement in their writing without me doing very many corrections at all. After they would write during the day, I would take up a sample of folders, and from looking at their writing, I would see where they needed some help. So if they needed help with speech marks, I would do a lesson on that the next day for the whole class. Or if they needed a lesson on sentence structure or how to make characters interesting. And then I would base my lessons on that. So rather than correcting it, I would have a lesson on it. And through that, their writing improved a lot. And even though during the year I was a bit nervous that I wasn't going through and correcting every single piece, it actually made a difference. So that was my writing strategy for last year. And then for reading, I tried to do most of my reading lessons through novels, because I feel like the children get more worth out of that. And we would read a novel together as a class, and one of the strategies I used for working with a novel was to have book discussions. I think we called them book clubs last year. And each person in the book club had a role. So they would be given a piece to read, and then afterwards they would be given some discussion questions, so they would talk about it afterwards. And then their roles would be a question asker, so someone would have to read the piece and think of some questions to ask. Another person would be the connector, so they would read the piece and think of any connections they had. Did the passage that they read had anything to do with, was there any link between their lives in the book, or anything they've seen on television, or another book that they read. Another person would be the artful artist, and they would draw something from a description in the book, and then they would share all their questions and connections and their pictures and discuss that. And I found that really engaged the children in the books. And this year what I hope to do is have groups working on different novels, so that they would feel like they had a choice in the novel that they get to read. And the principal is going to help me get collections of books, so that we would have like 5 of each type of book. I present them to the class, and then they'll mark down which ones they would like to read, and I'll put them in groups based on that. And by talking to them beforehand about how difficult the book is, they get to choose a book not only on interest, but on what they think is suitable to their level. And then I have different lessons then on when the book club come together, different activities they can do in it, like last year, the different roles, and just getting them actively engaged rather than just reading a passage and then answering questions on it. So that's what I'll be doing for reading this year.